Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I am here again with Allison Chaplot, who was with us last week as we talked about finding your space and establishing your energy. Allison shared with us through the lens of real estate and everything she's learned as a Kabbalah student. And we're back again this week talking about no trading off, that the world is giving us plenty of opportunities to give up on what's important to us for the instant gratification, for the feeling good for a minute, for the temporary thrill. And inevitably and unknowingly, we often give away and give up on the things that are most important to us. So every week on the Weekly Energy Boost, we share the 7-day spiritual weather forecast, where we go through the wisdom of Kabbalah and we offer the most practical wisdom and powerful tools to help you navigate the coming 7 days. And inevitably, we share timeless wisdom and timeless tools. This week, we happen to be finally ending the month of Scorpio and starting the month of Sagittarius. Sagittarians are known for being thrill seekers, for looking for the quick thrills, I guess you can say, and they're not really adept on the patience and the long-term perseverance that's required to create important and meaningful things in life. We always talk about when the month shifts, the week that the month shifts, we always dedicate some time to talking about the calendar. And Allison and I ended last week's episode sort of teasing that out. So I want to make sure that we get to it. But this Tuesday, November 14th, is the first day of the month of Sagittarius. And the new moon, according to Kabbalah, is the seed from which the remaining, 29, 30 days of the month will sprout from. So our mindset, our behavior, what we do in that 24 hours really affects the whole month. And to that end, we are offering a Sacred Sounds meditation. You can find the link in our bio if you want to join us. That's free, and it's happening Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. But even more than that, the whole month is, we call it the month of miracles. It's a powerful time in which the planet Jupiter is in control. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, of spirituality, of breaking limitations. And then you have the influence of the Archer, the Sagittarius energy, which is breaking through limitations, paving new roads, like really planting fantastic seeds. And Allison shared last week different things that she's used in her over the almost 20 years that she's been a Kabbalah student, not only as the #1 real estate agent for multi-unit
in San Francisco.
In San Francisco, yeah. Sorry, not in the world, but in San Francisco, which is a big city, by the way. Big things going on there. But also personally, privately, as a human being, using that. And one of the things over the years that we've really leaned on is the calendar. And I think everyone would love to hear, how does that look in a practical, like, how do you really, what do those conversations look like? How do you strategize? Because that is really one of the pillars of the work that we do.
Yeah. So for me as a real estate agent, that marketing is a key component to success in long-term marketing, and really tying that marketing around to, and vacation, by the way, and when I am in certain places at certain times.
Well, it's like when you push and when you
plant the seed, and when you don't, right? Like sometimes it's summer and it's summer for a reason, and sometimes it's acting like summer. There's those 3 weeks in the summer I always take off. But, for me, we always, I think, go back and forth. Okay, back and forth. When are we doing this? When are we not? And getting into the flow and watching what's happening in the universe.
Well, that's what this podcast is all about.
Yeah, it's like, here we are, right? Like this is it. And it's always just so true. But the only thing, I can't control what happens, what sells, when this person calls me, but I can really say, okay, like when is a good time to make my to-do list or have my expansion? When am I going to do this piece of marketing or that piece of marketing? I do recall when Mercury's in retrograde, we talk about that, kind of going back through lost contacts, people who I had been in contacts, previous clients, and really using the energy in the universe to plant the seeds, rake the dirt, really like go through it. And it's been very successful. I think about 10 years ago, I really started leaning into the calendar. And I remember, we had the discussion about, okay, let's lean out a whole year. And we did. And in that, it's been super.
Well, I think that most people, I mean, you use the example about planting seeds, right?
Yes.
Like a farmer, if you know that you need to harvest in August or September, you need to backtrack and choose the optimum time to plant seeds, the optimum time to plow, the optimum time to harvest. And, you can have all the good intentions. You can be the most spiritual person. You can believe in all the right things and be the kindest person. But if you plant your seeds in the dead of winter, nothing's going to grow. You can be the best person in the world, but you're literally trying to go against the laws of nature.
Yeah, and just throwing seeds on the ground, the wind blows them away. You got to put some straw on top and hope for rain the next day. So it really is a connection. And planting seeds is, it does get into tithing and donation for me. It's like when we do it, how we do it. Certainly, ways to break the cycle of just the normal. I want so much more in life. I want more. And so I guess that makes a lot of sense for being here in Sagittarius expansion. I have a huge desire. I feel like I'm pretty much always looking forward, and it's like, okay, what's next? How do I do this? Not necessarily bigger, but it can be quality. But, like, what are we doing? What are we doing now? And I know we really grateful for our teacher relationship, and through our relationship, I've got a network of, in particular, women who study and are really good sounding boards and talking about like planting those seeds and how they're growing. It's been really key.
Well, I think that's also, I mean, you touched again on 8 amazing ideas in the last 2 minutes, but one of them is, I think one of the things that people don't realize is that a lot of unnecessary stress and struggle comes from trying to force things at the wrong time.
100%.
So one of the way that those conversations often look is, what's going on right now? What's going on this week? What's going on this month? I have all these things I want to do. When's the best time to do them? Because again, you can have important and powerful things to do, but trying to do them at the wrong time is just going to result in exasperation. Whereas when you do them in the right time, things just go so much more smoothly and harmoniously, and you feel so much support from the universe. So it's not about, I know David and I have had this kind of argument. He feels like this is a rigid thinking, but say that to the farmer who says, well, you're being rigid. I'm going to plant my seeds while it's snowing outside. The real intention behind it is to be a part of the flow that the universe is. Anyway, the universe is in a state of flow, and you're just tapping into it.
There is no energy lost, so you can plant the seed in December.
No,
like I can make a cold call.
Yeah, that's for
right.
sure.
Like I think to that point. However, like the things you really control, like the marketing timeline, we talk closely about those. Like, okay, when am I going to send? But like, there's never a bad time to like. There's just times that are more fertile.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. There's times where you just experience more support,
yes.
more ease, more. And I, as a teacher, not talking about you, a lot of people experience misery and stress and anxiety because they're strong-arming something to happen at the wrong time. That's what I mean.
All the time.
Trying to force something to happen in a time where it's not that it's a bad idea, but it would just be better a month from now, 6 weeks from now, even though the waiting, the patience is hard. And that's another big theme in the month of Sagittarius is they tend to be very impatient people, and we're all going to be a little bit less patient this month.
So I do notice that I'll be like, oh, I should really go on like a rampage and call people and do this and market. And as soon as a really good time in the universe comes for all of those things, I feel so lazy. I should take it.
Laziness is also a Sagittarius thing.
It's like, but so it's interesting how my ego will jump in and be like, it would be like, oh, it's a really good time to plant the seeds. And I'm like, well, it's a really good time for vacation too. And so trying to have the restriction and really like say, okay, this is the time, regardless of how I feel, let's do this.
Right. And that goes back to discipline. And discipline
and that's hard.
It's also hard
it's
for
just
Sagittarians.
Hard. And then like, it's just hard. Discipline's hard all the time, 24/7.
Well, but you said really beautifully last week that getting outside of your comfort zone is an integral ingredient in long-term success. And one of the things that the universe is really calling us to look at this week is what are your long-term goals? What's important to you for the long haul, and how are you getting in your own way, consciously and unconsciously? How are you stepping on your own toes along your quest for success, for growth, for happiness, can be relationship, right? We've talked about this so many times. A lot of people say, yes, I want to find the one, but they have these conflicting desires where they want to be left alone. They don't want accountability. They don't want to be uncomfortable. They don't want to have to check in with somebody every 5 minutes about where they are. So it's really almost, the universe is almost giving us this magnifying glass to examine our desires, our goals, and our desires. And they're not the same thing. No. You can have a goal to have a multi-million-dollar successful business, but you also are afraid of failure. And so the fear of failure prevents you from doing those small steps that will take you to be more successful. So part of, I think, what we wanted to talk about today also is the influence of our environment. You mentioned having a teacher and having some spiritual girlfriends to give you that support and be that sounding board. That's easy to talk about, but it's not always easy to create.
It's taken a long time to create. Every area of my life is like really supportive. The people I surround myself are really supportive, that are really close. Now I have a lot of people in life, right? Like I'm connected to a lot of people, but I take a huge amount of responsibility in who is close on a day-to-day basis. In particular, not only my friends, but those I work with.
Like and the people in your office,
the people in my team, and sometimes energy shift. And I'll notice for me recently, I was in an environment where I was going to this office, and there was some things going on for this group of people, and I kept weighing me down. I was like, God, I walk in, I'm like, oh, and so I removed myself, and immediately my team and I. We're talking a couple miles down the road.
Literally you moved your office.
Yeah, I moved my office. And what was happening for these people in this group was what needed to be happening for them. I just didn't need to be a party to it. And it's been so light after, and energetic, and just flowing. And it's like, God, why did I do that for so long? And so there's just sometimes the answer is like right in your face. But it's
so funny that you say that, because I do see, even in the context of the teachers, I've lived in 4 different cities, worked in 4 different Kabbalah centers, and regardless of talent, some cities are better for people than others. And this is like a shout out to last week's episode when we talked about like occupying, finding the right building, the right car, the right space for you. Environment is so key.
Yes.
In allowing your potential to unfold. Like you could inadvertently be in the wrong environment that is squelching you. Like you happen to be a conscious person.
Yeah.
Anybody else might be saying, what's wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? I need to see a doctor,
I just want to be really clear. Everyone in that space I was in, great. The great people trying to do great things. But sometimes and I think that's true, like you can still be in this company and the company's trying to do great things, and the process is the process. But sometimes distancing can be really helpful and have nothing to do with the people. But who I keep really close to, it is like closely guarded. It's not anyone. It's by choice. It's long term. It is conscious.
And that's not without the mistakes you've made along the way. There have been issues over the years where the wrong people have been there. And
some of the most interesting things are like when it goes really bad in the beginning, but it turns out to be the best thing long run for a relationship. And I've certainly have those. And but yeah, I guard my inner circle very closely.
That's important. That's important.
So
another thing you just flung out there that I want to develop is the patience piece.
Yeah.
Because not that patience is a virtue and we're going to all sit on our pillows in meditative state. It's more of things that are valuable, that are important, usually aren't instantaneous, right? Yeah. Like that's the whole idea that we live in this era of instant downloads, right? We get upset at our phone when it takes a minute to like segue between apps, or, you know, when the phone rings more than 4 times, you get like we're such an impatient species right now, probably more than ever in human history. And the Kabbalists teach that nothing, I don't want to be negative in the way I say it, that everything that has value has a process. Fruit takes time to ripen.
Yeah.
And many times we experience sour persimmons because we pick the fruit before it's ripe. And there's actually a teaching in Kabbalah that the more sour a fruit is while it's growing, the sweeter it will be when it's ripe. That the difficult processes actually result in more fruitful outcomes. Now, why is that important? And the Kabbalists also teach that it doesn't have to be that way, right? Like that's the paradox of effort is required, and that's the key word. We tend to think, or what do they say? You know, follow me for more life hacks, right? Like everybody's looking for a faster way to boil an egg, a quicker way to clean their carpet, like all those just bottom line me, right? Light is not revealed. We talked about this last week. Light is not revealed with the manifestation. It's revealed in the creation.
Yeah, you always say, you know, if you're pushing, the universe doesn't have to push you.
Right.
And it's really true. And hence the patience, then you just know if I'm pushing, it's just happening.
Well, the patience to me is also about trust. And you talked about that as well, like knowing that the universe is going to take care of it
in a better way than I ever could have, right? They
so
can see things,
what are you impatient for then?
Right.
You're impatient for your outcome, not the universe's outcome.
Right.
And so that whole, you know, speaking to all of us now this month, that again, that Sagittarian tendency to want like to feel good now, the thrill now, the excitement now. When the excitement wanes, they tend to drift off or find a shinier toy to play with. The mentality of the process is the purpose.
It's the same for those relationships.
100%.
Yeah. Like the ones that like, when it's like no longer exciting, it's like, well, when the business is up, who's there? A lot of people. When the business is down, who's there? Those are the people I want when I'm on top.
Right.
Right.
And that's sometimes a painful process to
And sometimes
to
it
realize.
happens just to like get the clarity. It doesn't have to happen long, but it can happen and it can bounce back. So
No, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's the pushing. I also think that, you know, as we talk about energy, and I don't know how much we've like explored this directly, but there is a magic in the up and the down. And every time I come off of a down, I'm always up and down. It's never, I feel like you're either going up or you're going down, but you just don't stay the same. There's always this like amazing breakthrough and this gratefulness of, wow. And I'm like, could I have picked that up without the pain? Probably not.
Yeah.
And here we are. But I also couldn't be the person I am today without that lesson. And so grateful, but you know, keep trying to push. I'm constantly being surprised. Like I never had an idea my life would look like it looks today. I mean, I ran around like on a beach. Now I like broker in San Francisco. Like, wow, okay, that's like, didn't see that one coming. And the people I work with are phenomenal. And it's great. But yeah, timing.
But that's you're like, to you it's obvious, but I think for a lot of our listeners, the destination always looks more attractive than the journey.
Right. It's all about the journey, right?
This is something we talk about in Kabbalah 1. It's that fundamental, is that our purpose is not outside of us. And I think that everything that you're sharing, the underlying message is, yeah, this is my profession and this is what I do and this is how I help people. But it's my growth that makes it what it is, that I'm focused on my own transformation and how can I be a better person? How can I express the greatness of my soul? How can I diminish my ego and become more humble, take my agenda out of it? You're using your profession for that work, and that's what makes it magical.
100%. I always kind of like wonder, like, well, of course I'm working, but that's what I'm doing with my time. But that's how everything is revealing itself through that. I'm
saying you're doing it so long that you might not even think it's a thing, but it's like, very unique.
Yeah. I'm just, showing up to life, but like within this realm. And that's how, so for me, when someone calls me and says, oh, I'm going to sell my building, I'm like, thank you, God. Like, I feel like this direct hit of light, regardless if that transacts to a sale, but it's like this direct moment of like, oh, this is the light in my life. This is great. And there are these moments that, through doing deals, through negotiating, through business, I really feel connected to the universe. And I think if I was just driving down the 5 freeway going for a surf, which is definitely
fun, and a lot of people connect to
I love it.
The creator through surfing.
And I do.
Right.
But like, and I feel really grateful, and not a lot of people know this, but I competitively surfed until my mid-20s, and I loved it, and I still love it, and I love the water. But there's something about the toughness and the day-to-day of this that makes me feel so much more connected, and like I'm playing with the universe in a different realm.
Maybe the water and surfing is more of how you receive.
Yeah, relax. It's just the best.
That's the self-care and the nurturing of
Right.
giving yourself what you need to then go out there and do it.
Right.
So it's like you draw from the universe that energy, and then you can.
There are a lot of successful commercial real estate brokers that surf, by the way. I think it's an interesting thing. If you think about
heard it here first.
I mean, if you think about catching waves, it's kind of like life, right? Like you just don't know, but like you trust it's coming. Like there's something about surfing.
For sure. And
like
even
timing.
the tides, it's very connected to what we're talking about.
Yeah,
it's
the
all
whole
about
thing.
the timing.
Yeah, farming, tides, tide pool. There's a lot of things.
I want to take a minute or two also to talk about the different tools that you use you mentioned your tribe, you mentioned working with a teacher, you mentioned very quickly tithing, charity. How do you see that as part of your work?
So both, I think the tribe one is really apparent. So I have 2 girls who we work together. They're on my team, and both of them have a lot of commonalities. And I think that make them both really unique and special in their own ways. But we don't talk about others. We're not negatively out there. There's not really like, oh, what's the gossip? It's just a very different energy of like, hey, what are we going to do today? How are we going to do it? What do we want to do? How do we help somebody? How do we sell this property? And we're not out there.
You're focused on adding value.
Yeah, we're focused on being in the moment, helping the people that are like there. How are we going to get more people to the boat? And I think that's really positive. Sometimes, friends are going through hard times, and I'll be there, but like trying to like have the boundary around helping someone. Sometimes it's just about listening and not about helping. But my tribe is really important. My husband is very, very spiritual. And he has a really unique way of looking at things. Oftentimes, like he'll say, we sort of like running joke, it looks really bad. Like, and he rides horses competitively. And so this horse got off the trailer this week and scraped its leg and couldn't go to the show. And he was like, and I was like, oh, it's probably good. I don't know. Like, let's just not like this is happening, for us, not to us, and like, let's just go with this and it's going to be okay. And, having his support and he's a like triple Taurus, right? So it's like this solid as it can come. I bounce around, but he's just like steady, is really important. And, in talking about us and giving back and tithing and charity and donation, and they're all different and they're meant for different times. I do think, I don't take them lightly. I think doing donation completely shifts and creates like a massive opening in the universe. Personally, I've had experience with, early on, maybe like 15 years ago or so, I did an act of charity and, my life fell apart and then fell together and it was just brutal. And then there's been these moments where it's just been a little bit more consistent and my relationship to giving and giving money has really changed. And I can say that no matter how blessed I've been, it's always hard. There's no easy amount.
Because the more you receive, the more you give.
Yeah, and it's hard. From a practical business standpoint, and I don't really talk about this on a personal level unless somebody asks, and most of my really successful friends do give charity and donation, and a lot of people want to give is, do a little bit more than I'm uncomfortable with. It's always,
No, doing more than you are comfortable.
Oh yeah, I'm always doing a little bit more than I'm comfortable with in order to like break it, and trusting that as a result of it, I'm protecting everything I have. And whether it's my health, it's my family, it's my life, it's marriage, it's the whole thing. But it's a way to connect to the universe and draw down. Like to me, it's like playing the lot. It's like the surefire way to win the lottery of life. Like I participate. And I don't think there's any one right way for any one person. And I have constantly seen miracles with people who give. And I've given in a different ways, over the years. And it's like a different song playing on the radio, depending on how you give. It changes the tune of life.
Yeah,
I know that probably doesn't make a lot of sense.
I feel
for
that
people.
too. It's hard to articulate it, I think, but the way that you said it is very inspiring. It's like It's like, I don't want to say game changer because that's kind of cliche, but it's like it creates these tweaks where then you experience things differently.
Yeah, it's like the paradigm shift. It's like giving out of fear is different than giving to connect, giving for miracles, giving to help people. Everyone has such a different relationship with money, and I have different relationship with money at different time. Money is light in my opinion and in my view of it, and it tends to, it goes up and down, and it happens typically to get my attention as far as I'm concerned, because I'm paying attention. And it's a really, probably a really deep conversation for a lot of people. Money is not easy to talk about.
Yeah. But I think because it's so tied up in our livelihood, we ask people, what do you do to make a living? How do you make a living?
So how do you make money? And people are always asking, say, how do you make light in your life? And, that's the most interesting thing about you. Well, kind of is, right? But there's a better way to maybe say well, how are you interacting with life? And money is connected to that, and success. And some of the most successful clients are wealthy people. They're not wealthy. They're unhappy. And I'm always like, crazy? Okay. But some are so happy, and I do think a lot of that is their connection to light and the energy. And money has this amazing amount of energy. It just does. And, for a long time I had none. And the idea of just walking into a store to be able to buy clothes was amazing, right? And my relationships changed over time with money.
What's interesting for me as an observer in what you're talking about, and also what you went through, is that, and I see it, I don't want to make it personal about you, I do see this in other people's movies as well, but when you make giving a practice versus I do it when I feel I have enough, or I do it when there's a worthy cause, but when you bring it into your regular spiritual practice, wait, pause there. Last week I was listening to you talk, and I obviously know other people in real estate, and I could hear them saying, well, you have great clients. My clients are mm-ms. And, like, how do you really, because not only that, but
I have some,
no, but there's, you tend to, I don't know, it's like real estate agents and car salesmen tend to get like a really kind of bad rap.
Yeah.
And for good reason, because when it comes to, I think, possession and ownership, people don't show their best selves. And when I was listening to you talk last week about your clients and how you're in service of them and just so beautiful, I could hear listeners thinking like, well, how do you get clients like that? To me, as an impartial observer into the work that you do, I think that your habit of giving directly affects the quality of clients that come your way.
Yeah, there's no doubt that giving affects my entire sphere. Talk about my tribe. Let's talk about that tribe, right? Around money. So showing up and it not being all about that and giving charitably. And there's different times for it changes the way that when a client pays a commission and they close a deal, there's a different energy at which they feel when they give it to me. So a client can pay a very small commission, they sell a very small deal, and they can be just like, ooh.
Right. And begrudgingly paying.
And then there's a client who sells a massive deal and they're like, oh my God, best thing ever. Thank you so much for everything you did. And it changes that energy. And so I think probably a whole money is light, and how we interact with it says so much about where we're at, what we're going through. And not a lot of people talk about it in this light. And I think that's going to change. I think as the younger generation comes up, they've seen the struggles and everything's out there, right? To consume. And I think we'll start talking about it, and some really amazing things will come of it. Just because people have it doesn't mean they're happy.
Right.
Or have what it can buy you.
And I think that leads into another theme that comes up. It's definitely connected to this week's energy, but related to what you were talking about before. So many times you work on something. And again, it can be talking about you working on it with a particular property or with representing a particular client who's looking for the right property. It can be you can be in a relationship with somebody and things happen and it doesn't work out. There's so many, I know a lot of people who've literally changed professions midlife.
Yeah.
Right? The guiding principle, and you shared it, again, this is something you threw out like in the first 10 minutes of the episode that I want to make sure we address properly, is that energy is never lost.
No.
Energy is never lost means that I can invest in someone and it doesn't work out, but that energy is saved for me in a reservoir so that when the next person comes along, it's miraculous and magical, and it's like we've known each other for 20 years.
Yeah.
So in the context of sales and trying to, again, either help somebody buy something or help somebody sell something, how does that play out how do you see that play out?
Yeah. So a couple things come to me, but when it comes to it, when people set out to buy real estate, it's a really interesting process. So I try to help them get really clear on why they're buying it, what they're buying. And it makes the process a lot shorter and simpler and straight to the point.
Cleared as the weeds really quickly.
Yeah. And then the result of buying the real estate tends to go pretty easy. But sometimes people show up in a heap and I'll listen and then, I'll be like, okay, no, this probably isn't, or yes, it is. And this is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to do it. Kind of going back to, it's a goal. Let's have the goal, which is different than the desire. And if we have a goal, it's really easy to get rid of the noise, right? Because you have the goal. But when I think about, what kind of popped up for me was real estate agents. And as a group, I just love real estate agents. They're just great people. And I see them struggle. And then I see some succeed. And I think there's just so many amazing reasons why real estate agents succeed or don't succeed. And I'm having fun watching this one guy right now who is working so hard. He's calling like hundreds of people, he's investing, and he's like, I don't understand why nothing's happening. And I'm like, for sure, I think something big is going to happen. And I'm getting to watch this movie and I'm like excited for him, but he's frustrated. And I'm like, yeah, but I've seen like, this is going to be good. And then I see agents who don't have any money get into the business, and some do really well. And there's reasons why people do really well and not. 22 years. I've watched a lot of people in my class of real estate. When I started, I think there's 3 or 4 of us left. And so there is a relationship with the universe in order to succeed in any sales.
Yeah. I think trusting the process and knowing that you can't, to me, it's about knowing that nothing is a waste of energy.
No, there's no waste. And I think sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to get off the bus. So there was this guy who was really successful in selling real estate. It was great. Better salesman than I am, for sure. And he decided he was over it. And then he went on to like huge hit at Salesforce. I mean, just like out of the park. And I was like, he's crazy for leaving this. Like, he's so good at this. He's doing so well. And he's done really well. And so no energy's lost. You know, all that time and that preparation he put into this. And I've seen a lot of guys and gals go into real estate and then go on to next and take exactly what they learned there and move it on. And then again, I see real estate as a second business for a lot of people where they apply what they got in the first business. And going to work, what I'm hearing myself say is going to work is really just the way we communicate with the universe. It's like what we do with our time.
Yeah. And I think that both last week and this week, one common thread is that we have the opportunity to look at how we're managing our energy.
Yeah.
Energy in the form of time, energy in the form of emotion, energy in the form of money, all forms of energy. How much love am I giving away freely? And I just want to end on with one point that you, again, obviously came through what you shared today, but also last week. And it's so hard, but so great, is that you are clear about how it works. Like, you know, you were saying, we're not talking on the weekends. If this doesn't work for you, that's also okay. Like, I think it was, I think Brene Brown, she said, clear is kind.
Clear is really kind. No chaos when you're clear with people.
Well, but that's the chaos is the storm that takes place on the inside when you have to set a boundary. And you coming out the gate, telling the buyer, we need to know. You can't tell us on this day. You can tell us a week from now, or you can, setting those parameters.
Yeah.
As difficult, as uncomfortable as it may be for some people, actually saves energy and effort along the way. And
allows those people to go live this like really productive, fruitful life. Nothing is worse than being on the end, for a lot of people, being on the end of indecision. No one likes that.
No one likes that.
No one likes that.
Wow. So this has been, if you're listening, if you got to the end of the episode, you should probably go to the beginning of the episode with a pencil and paper and take notes. This was epic, Allison. So I really want to thank you.
Thank you.
And your tribe for lending you to me for these monumental episodes. Again, Tuesday, for those of you that are listening on Monday and Tuesday, Monday night to Tuesday night is the new moon. So we want to really make the effort to be our best selves, to be as mindful, to be as kind and conscious and generous, and really your best self for those 24 hours. That leaves an imprint on the rest of the month. As you said, Allison, it's the month of miracles. So we have a lot of big blessings coming, and we're going to continue to unpack that in the coming weeks. We have Thanksgiving coming here in the U.S. There's lots of opportunities. Fabulous episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Weekly Energy Boost is available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also visit us at weeklyenergyboost.com to find our archives, to learn about the things we think are important for our listeners to know, and to click the donate button and support making this podcast possible. But as always, the best thing that you can do, if you're feeling grateful, appreciative for any nugget that you might have gotten in the last 40 minutes, please share this episode. The more people it reaches, the better the world is, and you become the cause for that. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for doing the work. Allison, thank you again.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.